Okay. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to restorative session today. Going to start with our body centered next to a rolled up blanket. And the blanket is in a bit of a tube shape, and then you can simply drop a towel or a blanket on the top of that edge. So it's right at the very edge. So the blanket on top might kind of slide a little bit off the other side. But what adjusts this prop under your spine is actually your body kind of morphing into the props. So it's likely to be changed once you're on top of it. So turn so that you're facing towards the bolster. So the feet are floating, the heels are floating off the other side of the bolster. Okay. And then as you start to lower back, you want to have your sand nearby. You want to have your blocks right by the sides and your ball nearby the side. Okay, tuck the blanket so it's right at your tail, right towards your tailbone. So it's really tucked in close. So as you bring your knees a little closer and your feet on the bolster, I want you to try to keep the knees about hips distance. Feel as the spine and the muscles adjacent and also the corresponding core, right? Gripping and responding to your lowering experience back. And you're going to adjust your blanket so it's actually feels like it's rather low so that your neck is almost having a little bit of adjustment. It's getting positioned so it's motioning back. So instead of a chin tucking or your head on the floor, I want you to have a little bit of that suspension of support of your brain, but just a tad so you can let your brain rest into the blanket. Okay? Now reach down to your blocks and set the blocks in so they're right on the edge of your mat. Move your feet together and your knees out to rest on the blocks. So I'm going to tuck my blocks in quite close to my thighs and see if I can adjust so that my legs are comfortable. I don't feel a lot of tightness working its way out in my inner thigh quite yet. And tilting the blocks might work well for you. It depends on the floor surface you're on a little bit for that. If you're on a carpet, they may kind of bounce out and in. So find a wave of support for your legs. Okay. Now you're going to add sand across the ribs to do some weight training for your lungs. We have a multi-layered experience for our breathing. And if at any time the blocks feel like they're jutting too tense into your skin, you can always lower them down so they are basically close into your thigh so they kind of hook and hold the pelvic basin so that you can arrive at comforting breath in the belly, the organs, right? Not just the belly organs, but the pelvic floor and the lymph drainage. Okay. So let your elbows flow open, get a feel for where your yoga belt is, and grasp a hold of that belt very, very generous width. So generous you don't really feel like you're gripping something. So you're going to let the belt be in your hands, but have it set so that you lightly hold on to it. Very mild, it's in the hands, fingers are curled as slightly as they can over the belt. Let your elbows touch the floor, let the chest and the ribs gently expand, closing your eyes and receiving your in-breath and filtering that air as it moves inwards. Embody the breath in the belly. Allow the belly to lift on the inhale. Exhale, slow, belly relaxes back towards the floor. And just start to gradually feel the layer of attention move into your body. recognizing your awareness, your layers of focus externally start to shed and moving into that all-encompassing breath pace. Inhaling for a count of 4. Exhaling, empty, for a count of 5 to 6. Reorganize the circulation across the ribs. Start to scan the front layers of the body. Noticing the feet, the knees, the hips, and that core concentration flows out on each exhale. Now start to hold on to that belt enough that you can feel the circulation via holding the belt into your arms, and it activates your arms. Now, if you hold the belt and your elbows are motioning out, you're on a good path. If you hold the belt and your arms are trying to push to the floor, see if you can give them some free play to lift up off the ground, and then stretch your arms straight back. Okay, now this is going to transition for some of you. You might bring your hands in closer. You might slide them out a tiny bit. Individuality here. And I feel my blanket under my arm. So when I move my arms back, I still feel my blanket for me. Yeah, see if you can relax the striving mentality of trying to be more forceful with this, working on the selection of reaching and feeling your lung force, especially with that sand across the ribs. Moving the belt over the chest, straight up. It's a little bit taut, right? You're pulling. Inhale. Exhale back overhead. 4 times. Inhale over chest, belly full. Exhale, feel the arms motioning back. And as you alternate the expression of the arms linking up the motion of your ribs and the total number of breaths now. Let's start to let go. Just release your grip on the belt entirely. I would put the belt so it's nearby the sides. Okay, so it's easy access. And then move your knees towards each other. Get a feel of your feet on the bolster. Slide the sand so it's over towards the side. Okay. And we're going to push the blanket that's under your spine away. So I find it easiest to roll to the side, try to let my head roll with my spine, and then just slide the blanket over and come back to center of the blanket under your head. So this could take a very slight moment to adjust. Okay, so I've got my feet on the bolster. I'm going to either add a ball or a block to the center of the knees. Okay, there is some kind of order of support here for my knees, motioning inwards to the prop between them. Okay, so with your arms reaching towards the ceiling, okay, feel your fingers so that they span open. Press down into your feet, and as you lift up your hips, ideally we're going to work on the hip flexors, the quads lifting. Okay, now scan the sensation here through your upper back and your neck. If this feels like it's pushing your actual back of your brain up and tightening the neck, then you'll slide out your blanket for this short phase of bridge pose. You decide. I want you to feel like you're going to be able to access each part of the spine through the massage, okay? So as I bring my arms overhead, I reach back with the arms. It's not faint, it's reaching through them. And I'm also trying to reach up into my hips. Right? Lift up your hips towards the ceiling. Squeeze in towards the prop, center of the knees. Knees squeeze in. And then as you start to lower your spine at the same time, you're going to work your arms moving down in tandem with the spine. You could sense the spine is dominant on the movement. The arms are secondary, just like some of the breathing muscles. So let that be so. Let the palms relax open, feeling the feet on the bolster. Squeeze the knees in. Inhale, arms flow back, overhead, hips lift up. Exhale, spine. As it lowers, feel also that contour in your core. See if you can work the space of the core as if you're letting the abdominal zone try to move into the back zone. And almost as if it's kind of flattening down, and then once you feel the back of your pelvi on the floor, feel the natural arch in the spine. Just like you would with cat-cow. So as we push down, we squeeze in, we lift up, leg, arms, spine. The ribs are pretty sensitive to trying to get to lift, so work to the best that you can. I hope you don't have sand on your ribs here. That would be a little difficult. And you exhale, satisfy that motion. And this time when you lower down, I want you to bring your knees in towards your chest. Try to let them tuck in. And then remove the ball or the block, okay? And we're going to place that ball or the block, you decide, under the sacrum. Okay, so I'm going to opt for a block just to see the differences with the props. The ball works fine. It does require quite a bit of core kind of balancing, so you can alternate between the two props under your sacrum. So my rear is set up onto the block or the ball. My palms are down besides my hips forwards. And I'm going to draw the left knee in towards the chest. So as you move your knee in, your opposite foot is pressing down into the bolster, and start to alternate the leg drawing in. So left foot down, right leg drawing in. Feel the hands open. Yeah, and relax your attention into how much energy pushes down into the floor, because just the pure act of alternating your knee to your chest, right, you're likely adapting to the situation right now. You're adapting to the practice, the instruction, but surely adapting your spinal column to moving and lengthening when your knee draws in. So next time you bring your left knee in, and then your right knee in, and then the legs go up. Okay. So with inverting the body, reversing that gravitational pull, right? The diaphragm has to work right now against that gravitational pull for you to inhale wisely. I mean, I don't know if you would inhale unwisely, but as far as the wisdom goes on this direction with the anatomy, when you articulate your inhale, when your legs are upside down, strengthening your diaphragm, So I'd rather encourage your inhale to be very slow. And if the exhale rushes out because of the place of the diaphragm, it's going to push into the abdominal cavity, actually pushes into the diaphragm. Right? Any of the contents in your abdomen is going to push into the diaphragm in this position, and that's why inverting is not that wise to do right after eating, right? So noticing maybe the ability to alternate your breath, and then feel your feet kind of wake up, like you now have some heavy weight on the soles. Whether you have something bouncy under your sacrum, like the ball, then you're really trying to bring everything into the center line so the legs go close as they could be. You're depending on all your widths you have to balance here. And now let the legs move a little bit forward. Recruit your core. Try to bring the legs forward so they're no longer in vertical zone straight up, but they're to the point forward where you're almost about ready to arch the back deeper. So you'll feel the ribs, you might even touch right above. So if you reach down to where your block or your ball is and then slide up on the side of the waist, right into that complex, that's about where you want to feel it start to activate and actually tighten around those abdominal currents. Right, so I want you to try to keep that current of energy pretty toned. Bring the right knee in towards the chest, let the left leg stretch down. Let it rest on the bolster. Breathe, arms overhead. Exhale, bring the left knee in towards the chest and the right leg to reach down. Breathe, which means inhale. Exhale, bring that right knee in and lower both feet to the bolster. Aha. Okay, now as you press down into your feet, lift up the hips into a bridge pose. And as you push down, really emphasize the downward pressure with your feet. And now as you reach both hands forward, as your hips still are up, we're going to slide that block or ball out. And as you progress to lowering down the spinal column to the flooring, I don't know where else it would lower to. Okay, as that spine meets the ground, feel the ribs fan open and let the spine center. If you have no blanket under your head, bring one under. That will be nice for the hip work. So when I'm in this position, I'm going to work with moving my right knee in towards the chest and take a belt, reach it under your right foot, and as you push upwards towards the ceiling, I want you to get the belt closer to the ball of your right foot so that's the part of your foot that actually will kind of move up and down, kind of alternate. So feel the kind of that twitching action, you know, on your hands, kind of flows, but it's pretty comfy on your shoulders, okay? Now walk the hands as high up towards the foot as they'll go, okay? I mean, truly as they'll go without you twitching your shoulders up from the floor. So I want you to feel length from your shoulders to your hands, okay? So feel that back landscape in a very easy opening position with your spine straight. Okay. Yeah, this is excellent back care work. And let that left leg relax down, just simply because we have a pure length in our spine, as we would like to do when we're in a sitting forward bend or a standing forward fold pattern. Start with that extended spine. This gives us an opportunity to really integrate that. Okay, the hands are going to close the belt together and then let the left hand hold onto your belt. Now this is a pretty tall reach with my arm, so As I cross the right leg over to the left, my right arm stretches open, and I cross my leg over, and I'm going to keep that left side of my spine anchored to the floor. My right foot is pushing into the belt, and my left leg just goes along for the right. Kind of rotates a tiny bit, but it's all about my right hip. That's where I feel this. And take notes if you are feeling this in another zone. I want us to emphasize very clearly into our right hip. Let the hand give a little more slack to the belt so your right foot can go a little downstream. Right? It might be shifting to that little bit of a kitty corner reach. Yeah, if the foot goes close to the floor, see if you can get that hand to activate the arm muscles and pull it a little bit. Okay. Now, as you start to bend through that right knee, you're going to actually feel resistance when we're pulling the belt and the knee bending. I want you to slide the left foot on the bolster and then cross that right ankle to the left knee and take the belt aside, place it down, reach both hands behind the left leg as you draw the legs in into reclining thread the needle pose. And as you're pulling the leg in, door one, my hands are behind my left thigh. Door two, my hands are under my left knee. So it's up to you now. Of course, this adds more knee pressure if my hands were below it. So you'll have to make in a decision here on a personal level for your knee. It is a deeper stretch, but then keep in mind it pulls the ligament around that knee into an extraordinary shape. Extraordinary. You can rock a little side to side. You be the decider how much you're going to tilt, but give a massage to the back of the pelvis. Even if you kind of go rocking over and use that spine adaptability. Remember, as humans, we can adapt. We can adapt. So in our practice, we're adapting to our home here. That's new for you. So you can wander a bit with this shape. Either you rock and roll, or you stay very in a format of holding it together and sensing into the right hip. Let go of your grip, let the left foot lower to the bolster, cross the right leg over the left, and move your knees to the right. Block could be under your knees, but get that IT band on that left thigh to stretch. Yeah. Your right foot could slide up on that left leg so it kind of hooks the very edge of the IT band. The left arm open, could feel kind of nice. Now really measure the focus in this outer sheath of the left thigh. Really measure the focus in your lateral rotator here. This is a great addition to hip flexor work, to quad work. It links right on that attachment. If you can reach your left arm back beside your head, find a landing place for the arm. Feel the ribs motioning with the breath. You know, as we unwind on this level, this side, we're going to uncross and windshield wiper the legs. So the feet are on the bolster or the floor, you can decide. But as I let my knees swivel, and there's a bit of a swinging focus in my hips. So this is a nice one to let your eyes relax and kind of visualize that you're actually swinging. You're going side to side. Visualization, right, counts. whether you're actually on a swing set or you're not, right? Visualize a swinging pattern that actually has some spaciousness to it in your back chamber. And then start to move your feet off the bolster, your knees towards you, and see if you can let the knees move side to side without gripping onto the legs. And use your own back core. Right foot onto the bolster. Reach for your belt. Tuck your left knee in towards your chest. And then as your belt, you reach it under your left foot. Lift up the left leg. Keep an awareness, especially as your right leg relaxes on the bolster, that sometimes the most simple shapes that we can spend energy on are very useful for our alignment. So this might be rather simple. We can all adapt to it. We know what we're up to. The left leg is up. Our belt is around the ball of the left foot. And I'm actually energetically pushing into my belt and holding on firm with my hands. I will try to walk them as high up as I can go so my back receives some support as much as my leg does. It's pretty mild in your back stretching wise, but if you close your eyes and you scan the feeling in your back, it's pretty right on for alignment. It's lengthening. There's really no rounding of your back. It's spot on for a helpful awareness to start out for our hip flush. And now as you close off the belt, you just bring each right and left together, and not any threading needed right now, but holding it with the right hand, left arm out, and then as you cross the left leg over to the right, see if you can get a feel of pushing into your belt with your left foot. So not forcing the speed of the movement. In fact, the slower you go, likely it's going to provide you with a little more long-term flush in that hip, right? If I try to use speed as my stretch, right, it really doesn't measure as helpfully with your fascia, right? You want to go slow, thorough, feel the fibers. In fact, you end up feeling more. And if you're relying on your right elbow on the floor to hold it together here, that might be useful. So you're not straining in your shoulder joint. And get a feel here of the left hip, right? If this left hip seems to be kind of lifting so that it's doing the right thing, like you almost as if you want to comply with the position, whether you're being seen or not, right? Do the best you can. Sometimes the best you can do is to do less and see how the leg pushes. See what muscles fire in your left glute, right, your buttock muscles. These crossover shapes are good to do before you do like some rolling, right, if you're going to use a foam roller or the ball to roll on. I find if I take a couple days off from doing that, I really notice my hips get tight. So it's that simple flushing is actually useful, especially if you don't do it and then you realize, oh, it's kind of getting a little tense in there. Tensor fascia. Okay, so bend the left knee. Yeah, and you might even put your left hand onto that knee and just carefully manage the movement. You're like the movement manager right now. You're your movement manager. Right foot steps on, belt off, left foot to right knee, reach your right leg towards you, hold the back of your leg with your hands. Yeah, get a feel where things start to move simply. And you could reach your hands below the right knee. Yeah, if you've got some knee history on the side you're working with, you might notice if the feeling is okay. It really feels 100% okay. Certainly you can hold under the knee, but if it's even a tiny bit unsure when you get in or out of it, then stay with the hand behind the right thigh. What I find useful with my hand behind the thigh is that I can use my left elbow to kind of push into my left thigh and trying to keep it away from suctioning up to my left shoulder. It's like it's got a suction cup on it and it's magnetized to my shoulder here. So stay away. So adjusting that spine, rocking a little side to side. Even if it feels like it's not getting a lot of loosening going on, you're not registering that sometimes with your nervous system, but trust that there is some movement, some actual energetic shifting around the cells here just by the simple rocking motion. It's therapeutic, right? Rocking the bones. And then as I draw the right foot down to the bolster, I'm going to cross the left leg over the right, and I want to have them as crossed as I can, right? So as the knees move to the left, I start to move my right arm back. Yeah, if the legs are up in the air and any prop under them won't be enough, you might find a block underneath the leg is useful. Maybe if you have the ball, it's great too because it's got some rebound in it. Yeah, that right arm reaches back. Make sure your blanket is supporting you. Breathe, ease. Feel the natural arch through the ribs. And that obviously is in the low back of the waist. So deep in the back of the waist, that is up from the chamber of your hip. Really work with breathing in the costals, the intercostals, the ribs. Now that we've kind of adjusted our mood and our focus here into our hips, okay, we're going to stay with that hip layer for a few more and trying to get the layer of the hip to branch out as if it's a lever, right? The hip is attached to a leg, right, which is your lever, and the leverage on that lever will stretch your back and into your upper back, into your shoulders, into your neck. So as you, right in there, bring the knees in center, and as you uncross, it's either so as you or as you, okay? You're going to uncross, and you're going to move your bolster over to the right side of your mat, so kick it over, and start to add on the left leg. So we're going to cross the left leg over. We're going to place either a ball at the base of the sacrum. You get to decide if you're going to use a ball or a block or nothing at all there, right? And if you would like a little more height under your left leg, you can add a block or a blanket, right? But if you put something under the leg and it starts to lift it up to a degree where the sand will fall off of it, that's not useful, right? So I want to have my leg in a position when I place my sand up to that exterior thigh, it's actually creating some traction, okay? Not just in my hip, actually for me, I'm feeling the traction if I move my bolster a little bit out, farther outwards from my mat, And then I move my sand closer to my knee. It feels pretty comfortable almost. So making the practice so that you are finding some ease with your ability to start with engaging where your focus is and then to let go. So try to let the breath empty out, feel the rotation at the rib level, feel the left arm out at ease, right? Remember finding at ease. Head turns left, eyes center in, and the right leg, that could bend. You could bend that leg so the foot goes closer to you. Let your practice be a little bit of a research project here for your environment inside the body. So feel the surge of breath. Empty the lungs. It's almost like the breath falls out of the body. That you have that control of carrying in a fresh supply. Now feeling the relationship in the mid-back, right? The connection to your ribs. So anything thoracically is connected to the rib cage. So with that rotation here, with the left leg crossed over, let's start to move any object you have at the sacrum. That goes bye-bye, okay? If you have the sand support, slide it away. And take a bridge pose in between the sides. So we'll bring our feet down. We'll reach our hands towards our heels so they're close enough. And be certain that your knees are a healthy hips distance apart. There's no external kind of swaying out of the knees. If anything, try to keep the knees moving in towards each other as you lift your hips up. So hands on floor, all hands on deck here. Lift up the hips, okay? And feel the shoulders move back. And if you've got that blanket under your head, you might notice that you'll need to really supply your hands on the floor to find that ease in your neck. Lift up your heels and then lower your spine down. Incremental lowering. As soon as your tail lowers, knees move into chest. Then you'll kind of feel when your tail lowers, the weight of your buttocks lowers too. Okay, let's move our bolster to the left. So if you're moving it over and you want to do a couple exercises for the arms, right? You could bring your bolster, but it's got to be straight above. Right? You don't want it to kind of wander behind you unless you want it to land on you. Feel it straight up. It's got a significant amount of weight. I mean, it is, I think they're about 7. So it's a pretty good amount for both upper parts of the shoulders here. But keep it straight above the chest. Okay, and bring your feet down to the flooring so they press down through the ball and the heels. Okay, try to keep that bolster up towards the ceiling. You're going to be flexing your wrists, so it's quite a wrist stretch as well. So that's a good idea to work this way. Now, if you end up feeling, if you're on hands and knees, it hurts the wrist, but not this way, that's quite interesting for your wrist flexibility. Right, less pressure because that's the full body weight if you're on your hands and knees. Okay, lift up your hips. We forgot that one, huh? Pelvic tilt, bridge pose. Keep the bolster just straight up. Okay, now as you lower your hips, you're going to bend your elbows like you're doing a push-up. You're in the resistance phase with the elbows drawing in towards your sides. Lower your spine. Okay, spine down, bolster to left. Okay, good. And I get those arms a little warmth. Okay, so right leg cross to bolster, ball to the lower back space. Keep it in motion here. So if you are placing your sand, keep in mind if you feel prop deficient, it's okay. You can do some house searching, okay, for some more home props. It's a good activity. You can go on a house hunt for some yoga props. Okay, so place that sand across, span your right arm open. This side might feel almost like it got warmed up from the last few moments. So you might find second side is an easier freedom of rotation, especially the ribs spatially, maybe not the hips as much. But we're trying to get our lungs flexible as much as our hips here. Probably even more so respiratory strengthening. And when we're working with that movement of air moving into the lungs, yeah, feel that there is a draw of oxygen in. Head feels where it's comfortable to the right side, since you're stretching your right hip. Yeah, fill your body like a balloon. Exhale, let it go. Now, if you're one for sensation and you feel like you're doing something, you're in a better mode in your practice, you can always strive. But sometimes accepting where it is, feel the initial reading in the hip, it's perfect, right? And then if a few moments go by, it just kind of eases up, then I would stay with that versus pushing further. Since this is such a tricky area to loosen from the hip chamber up into the SI joint spatially, we want everything to kind of be stable and supported. Now the ribs, that movement with your breath will help you calm the nervous system. So I want you to gradually be able to feel your nervous system kind of reset from the practice. Kind of that inner shelter is getting to calm. A few more moments here. Now brain center, sand aside, ball aside. Okay, so as that leg adjusts in, you're going to bring the knees in so there's a centerpiece of the back. And I would recommend to move your bolster so it could actually stay at your side. I'm just moving my back over so you'll be able to see my transitions here a little easier. So when I roll side to side, I'm going to roll to the side and come over. So you want to come over to all fours. Okay. Have the blocks on the sides of your mat. Tuck your blanket so it's under your knees. Okay. Have it pretty flat. I don't want it to be too bulky. So you might find that as we are proceeding into kind of our minimalistic props for this set, that when you reach your paws forward, okay, feel that paw reach front. That as I reach my hips back, I have my arms extending, my forehead descending. Walk your hands over to the top left corner, Feel your waist, feel your head lower down. Yeah, get the pulling from the back. So I want you to try to let your hands walk back center and reach over to the top right corner and feel your waist move down. You kind of mingle between acting to reach and then also to sink. And that's the dynamic of alternating forward and back. So when we come up to table, I want you to actually feel your hips adjust so you are centering. And then let the spine move into a cat shape. So the chin moves towards the chest, head dangles, brain hangs. Feel your fingers open and inhale, hips forward, chest forward, brain lifts. Exhale, come back all the way towards your feet with your hips. Inhale, articulate, rounding, stretching between, all the way to the neck, and then lifting up the chest. Okay, now when we come all the way down, we're going to lower down onto belly and move our elbows forwards underneath these shoulders. Maybe they set right where you need them. And concentrate on the ribs moving straight front, straight in front of you. And they do maybe feel like they have a straight reach with them. So maintain where there's length in the front of the legs, where there's pressure down to your elbows. Feel the waist stretch. Breathe. Okay, now as you lower down, walk the hands back so they're underneath the ribs, elbows by the sides. And as you push to come up, we're going to bring the toes under, lift up the knees, and reach your roots of the toes, the balls of the feet down into a downward facing dog. And try to feel where the muscles are attaching to help you lift your hips up, right? Your muscle attachments in your arms. So if you feel you want a review of this pose, you can always look back at your legs and get a feel of the heels lifting up a little bit of heel lift. Step the feet close together so the big toes are in touching mode. Okay, and then as you lift up that right leg, see if you can keep lifting and feel how the muscle of the legs, right, is supporting you, but also your arms, right? There's quite a bit of arm support here. Okay, lower down that right foot, lower down both knees, and take a position where you're reaching your hips back. Now, if it feels better for you to have your hands a little wider out, take a wide reach with your hands, forehead down. If you want to come all the way back to child's pose, and that's actually accessible in your knees, you may find that's helpful, or a little bit more lift in your hips. And forehead down can be quite useful here, just letting your forehead lower. Now, hands open, come up, toes under, knees together to start. And as you lift up your knees and you bring your left leg up towards the sky, keeping the momentum going here. We feel that lift of the left leg. And then we'll use that left leg for momentum, okay? So I'd like you to use the reach of your hands open. And feeling as that left leg starts to lower, bend through the knee and step it forward between your hands. and taking some blocks underneath your hands to support your approach to lifting up your core. Okay. So feel when that left knee is in its bending position, you're trying to reach your right leg a little farther down. Maybe it touches to the blanket. Maybe you're best with the knee a little bit up. But feel the reach into the back heel. That's important here. If you place the blocks a little bit higher, yeah, you might feel like you're feel a little bit more whole or connected with the different layers of the muscle patterns, right? The leg, the ribs, the shoulders, the lines of energy in your spine are really nice on this position, right? So it's creating that strength in your hips and your back. Yeah, get a feel when you're pressing into your left foot and engaging into the left hamstring. So I want you to try to push off the ball of the back foot. And then as you step forward into both feet, take a standing forward bend and reach around to get your belt and bring the belt so it's behind you. Hold onto the belt, palms facing forwards. Bring it back up and overhead to stretch your shoulders and chest. And you might find that when the arms hold onto the belt, that you're going to be pulling. Okay, and see if you can adjust so your shoulders are moving back versus trying to pull the belt out farther. So you might place the belt on your back and bring your hands in a little closer and then lift up towards the sky. It's tricky. And it's likely that you'll try to advance faster than your body's ready. So you can step your feet out a little wider. That could be useful. Hello. And you can bring your arms over. Too much too soon, I think. So maybe keep it real simple. So straight towards the ceiling, shoulders back, shoulders back. Okay. So those that are comfortable coming up, we're going to come up. And you won't see part of me when I go up because of the screen, but you'll simply find, so if you want to stay down, brain down, inversion, go for it. If you're ready to come up, push down, and then start to lift up the chest. And there's quite a blood pressure change. So just notice, be slow. It's pretty low from the moment before here. So if you get a little lightheaded, stay centered, open your chest, breathe in. Exhale, bend your knees, come forward. And get a reach for the arms moving back up and over. Head nods, let go of your belt joyfully. And then as you lower down, the arms can dangle, the hands can hold the back of the legs as well. So I could be in a dangling position, or I can hold my elbows or hold my legs. Let your head nod side to side. Exhale, let it go. Now as you reach for your blocks, set them into sides. And then move your feet closer in. And step back to the left foot. Reach the other leg back. So when you're moving your bones into that lunge pattern, get a feel for the reach of both leg parts. So I feel like it's my feet that are the base focus, and my hands actually. So if I feel like it's more in my feet, then I'm going to move my blocks a little bit higher and see if I can work all levers on deck here. The back knee can lower, the back knee can lift and push back into your heel. Yeah, let the moment be for the energy in the legs. Are we trying to get the energy to move freely through the body? So this set is going to start to kind of bounce a bit. So it all gets kind of washed out. And now you're going to get in the sound spinner here. Okay. So when you reach the left knee down and lower, okay, we're going to shift so my blocks go aside. Okay. I'm going to need a bolster and blanket. So what you'll do is you'll step the right foot back, place a blanket in front, rolled up, and then your bolster right on top of that. So you have a little bit of a ramp here, okay? And we'll shift into a side sage. So your left hip is down, your left arm is on the bolster. And if you have a sandbag, place it on the right side, okay? If you would like to have something on the inside of the right knee, like a block or a ball, you can also add that prop. Okay, it might be useful. Some of us will prefer nothing there. And with that support with the sand, sometimes it feels good to have the sand where it's right at the attachment, almost right before the attachment into the hip. So we're working with this curve and then the reach of the arm. Okay, now if this bolster setting is a little too much pressure in your left arm, you can always have it on horizontal and place your blanket either on top of a bolster or you can wad it up under your head. Yeah, that works great. So it's nice to try them all out, right? And to try out how you're supported on your block, if you're using a ball or a block. Set up so that the side feels like it's casually stretching. Just kind of making a wave and a current through the side texture, which can be usually slumped forward. So the arm could move, it could relax behind your back. Steady the movement of breath where it's most essentially centered. And if it's simply the sensation that your mind goes to, see if you can attach to noticing where the center of gravity is right here for you. Might be the heart, might be the navel. Now, as we set a moment between these two sides, options are to start to roll up. You might move your knees into a fetal position to help your spine adjust. And if you have the bolster lengthwise, you will turn it up this way and come into a back on bolster, resting through the shape of the waist and back. Open up through the ribs. If you decide, I would like to do a little bit of core time, keep in mind you have a blanket under your seat. So if you're going to go with core time, you'll either have a ball or a block center of the knees, and you'll move your spine up. And I like you to try to keep it so that the arms are reaching and your ribs are reaching too. So you're not collapsing, but you're trying to pick up the kind of the core bucket, right? If you notice, if you hold the knees, if you're here, hold on to your knees and get enough pull on the knees, if you're pulling yourself upright, that your feet could lift off the floor if you needed to lift them. So you're really pulling onto the knees. Breathe. Squeeze the prop between the knees and bring your arms forwards. Try to keep squeezing the prop, whether it's a ball or a block. Really, really squeeze into it now at this point. Squeeze. Now with the feeling of all that intra-abdominal pressure from squeezing, we're going to fan that out. So as we move the ball aside, we're turning to the right hip for side sage. Okay, so you're going to go to that other side. And when you're leaning to that side, feel your right arm either on the bolster or across, right? You can modify and change it around. Variations are the best part of practice, to vary it for you, okay? So as you have that ball or block inside the knee and add your sand on the left side, it's pretty simple, okay? Yeah, feel if you usually crave a little bit more of that whole side elongation, you can play with the irrigation here in the body. You can really play with how you're going to get that full span. Now, even kind of test your edge, right? Maybe even test what it's like to almost lose your sand. And if that's a delightful and necessary stretch through your side, you might move your sandbag so it allows you to cruise a bit, to open, to let the hips kind of shift down, and the left arm to reach. So the arm could go back and open, it could go straight over. It's quite wonderful to really have the bolster sometimes across horizontal on the mat, so I can mobilize my rib cage. And that's the helpful part for our costal breathing here. So for the mid breathing up into the upper lobes of the lungs, as they let this whole space have a lot of free motion to strengthen the lungs, since we have much more capacity than we use during the day, depending on your activity level, I'm sure, but feeling our yoga practice to use that to liberate the lungs a bit. Lung liberators. Okay, a few more conversations with your breathing inside, feeling it, reaching through it. Yeah, maybe enjoy a few moments of the practice, feeling your insides mobilize. Okay, so we're going to let the weight in that side start to curl into that right thigh, okay? I want you to actually roll over to a wall space. So let's say you're going to come around to table, and what you'll need at the wall will be a bolster, okay, and a blanket kind of off to the side, okay, a sandbag would be helpful as well, okay, and that's it. Yeah, you won't need much more, okay. So what we'll do is we'll sit with our bolster away from our wall space. Keep in mind, any of these you are welcome to do without a wall. Okay, you can do all these rotations and elevations without the wall. The wall gives us a little bit more information in our back. So I'm far enough away from the wall that when I straighten out my legs, I can barely reach the wall with my hands. So you want to have some distance when your seat is right in the middle of your bolster, okay? Okay. Distance is important here, okay? So right leg is straight, left leg crosses over the right leg. So you're in a simple leg extension, left leg crosses over. And then as you turn to your left, I want you to bring the right arm as straight as it can be on the outside of that left leg and reach your left hand back to the wall. Now, if you push into the wall with the left hand, I want you to work your way towards bending your left elbow, like you are in a twisting position, so the upper left side of the back is rotating down and in towards the spine. Yeah, all you have to do is practice saying hi, like giving that hand gesture really slow to feel up into your back here. So try to make a permanent imprint into your wall. Let your elbow lower down, feel the chest turn, feel the right arm lengthen, and let your head move a little left and right, but not too far back. So I find complacency here is just let my eyes rest. Feel the left side of the chest open. And feel where the hand against the wall works for you. If you're too close to the wall, you can always readjust and reset. Now, the final part of this is to feel your left leg and hip. So I'm either going to keep my right elbow to the left leg and press and turn, or I'm going to hug my left leg a little closer in. My right hand is onto my left outer thigh. And I'm actually trying to work my waist to the left. It's quite a belly churner, isn't it? A lot of that core muscles, but also organs and whatever is inside there. Yeah, letting that nourishment be absorbed for the best that you can create. Try to feel where the arm is holding onto the knee, and then let the left hand lower and switch sides. Left leg straight, right leg crosses. If you need to do a little bit of a tempo with the legs, fists, rolling, change sides. Right leg over, turn with the arm strength to the right. Right hand back to the wall, left arm is crossing over, and that upper back, really trying to rotate into that shoulder. Whew. Yeah. Dynamic, feeling the left foot flexing, toes up, flex, flex, flex. Right foot pushes down, down, down. Left arm reaches. Back of the arm to that right leg, pressing, and then counter spin to the right. Oh, there's a lot going on here. If any little portion of the neck is feeling a little bit of a spike of pressure, I would let your head be center and neutral and relax your brain. So you're not trying to pull it any which way. Some people like to stretch their neck on this. But maybe simple is a little more nourishing. Hold on to that right leg with the left arm like you're pulling it across, stretching into your hip for a few more moments, breathing. Now as you unwind, Now the lungs have had these tugs on each side, so we're going to go on to both of them. So we're going to move the bolster all the way up to the wall, all the way back, close as you can go, okay? And you're going to lean into one side, so this gets a little bit close for comfort with your back to the wall, but it's really your rear at the wall. It's not your spine, right? It's your buttocks, okay? So you want to have your sit bones to get to the wall. It's that close, right? You're going not far enough. The hamstrings are a little tense. You'll be farther away. But I think with practice, right, the story changes, okay? So I'm going to reach my right arm out for me on my right hip and then swing to bring the legs up to the wall, okay? So again, practicing and patience and acceptance, because this might be what you get is a little farther back. And if you're farther back, you can add actually a block between the leg and the wall so you feel like there's something you're touching. So that's one way to start to get the energy into the skin. Okay, oops, let me get my props. Okay, so what I'm going to need is a blanket under my head, maybe. Not everybody finds that to be the only way to go with this one. So blanket under my head. Okay, I've got to adjust this. Then I'm going to have my sand. Okay, so I want my blanket so I feel relaxing with it. Okay, so it's not a really big amount, a big chunk of height under my skull. In fact, try not to make the skull feel chunkier, right? That vertebrae at the top is not chunky, right? The cervical vertebrae is really small. So we want to feel that the lower vertebrae is pretty full in this position. So first thing, we're going to take a sand bag. If you have a bag of rice, that's perfect. If you're going without any weight on your feet, it's just as well too, okay? The weight on the feet also assists the exhalation, right? So it's just more supply from this bottom of the body into the lungs. So we're really working on that, reversing the effects of gravity also on the lungs here. Okay, so we're respiratory wise, expando in ribs. If the back of the pelvis is kind of flowing up, you want to try to press the tailbone into the bolster. It's a pretty nice science here on this position. And the inhale is very slow and deep when you're upside down. So reach your arms back to cactus, feel your hands resting. And allow the body to center into this final shape. Let your eyes relax. Feel the direction of the body. Ease the exhalation out. If you can link up focus as breath deepens and fills up the reservoir of the core organs. I'm doing a little self-study of where the legs are kind of ripening up with tone and circulation. It might be through the groins, and you might feel kind of a full amount of tone at the upper thighs here. So you want to keep that tone going. So you're focusing on the tone pelvic floor, but the opposite of prolapse. This is the pose for that. So feel how many awareness patterns that you notice in the body, whether it's legs, feet, weight, ribs, breathing, and then let it all merge into one experience of letting go. Breath sweeping the lungs. Inversions and balance poses are helpful to bring you into the present moment, right into your experience now. And now feeling where your feet are flexing. And then feel when your feet are relaxed. And maybe push up a tiny bit. And feel the orbits of circulation around each leg, right? And that circulation around each leg, and then around all the way to the platform of the core of the body. And then feel that motion of the belly, like an ocean motioning, slow, feeling the tidal quality of breath. Now feeling these moments here as we bend the knees, bring our hands by our hips, and then as we set our feet away from the wall, we feel the leg strength, feel a little bit of a leg press, intensifying, knees are towards the ribs, waking up the eyes. And then as you reach up to the sand, you're going to slide it back, and then bring your feet together, your knees out in a wall butterfly. From wall legs to wall butterfly. Push into the thighs. You want to get a pretty good push. So that information in the legs, right, that lymph flush goes from the legs straight down the inner vine of the leg. Now kind of intervening through the liver, kidney, spleen, meridians. And then as your knees are drawn together by the support of your hands, feel all the supports that brought you to this moment inside. And then as you start to roll to one side, let your hands help bring you around. And then placing yourself to sitting, maybe you're sitting right next to the wall since you're there. Maybe you're going to move onto a blanket or a simple floor support. And let's bring our hands to our legs and feel where the spine is upright. Feel where upright is spine is kind of brightening up the opening of the chest. So the natural arch of the back brightens up the chest to open the heart. Now feeling the space above the heart. Let your head bow into the heart spatially. And there's space above, around, behind. And let your shoulders simply roll back. Bring your hands up to elevate and balance into unity, bowing into your heart space. So with gratitude and appreciation for you sharing your space and your practice, your energy, inhale slow. And with an exhale together, bowing into your heart. In gratitude, namaste.